welcome to another epic build that was meant to be tiny and grew completely out of proportion. Prepare yourself for the next 20 odd minutes to be confused just by my ramblings more than actually what's going on the screen. The main packs I used for this was the Star Wars pack and Stranger Village pack. I was about to say Stranger Ville pack there. The whole idea that this started on is I wanted to really explore terrain tools. It's definitely not my strong suit. It's something I really struggle with, and I kind of cheated. As you can see, all the terrain's kind of just been reduced, and I just added loads of rocks around the outside, which I actually got right. I have a confession to make. The last recording, I just restarted it. I kept calling them bricks because they are orange. I kept saying bricks. Anyway, so placed the bricks around the outside just to try and make this cliff face sort of type thing, and then use my terrain tools to make a ramp, which clearly there's not enough room, so then I end up moving onto a bigger plot in just a minute, and then it just gets even bigger from there. To be fair, the actual building itself just exploded. So anyway, the only thing I can really recommend about doing these rocks is using the basement to be able to help you line things up, so then you can use the cheats and use the Shift 0 or Shift 9 buttons to move the rocks up and down. And also don't forget the brackets where you can make the rocks bigger or smaller. But honestly, the levelling would not have come out as well if I was trying to do this blind, which is why you see lots going on in the basement and there's just rocks exploding everywhere. I basically copied the room above it where I wanted them to be, so I knew they would go around the building rather than in it and everywhere else, because it just made it a lot easier and I didn't have to make as many adjustments later. The idea for this build was to just be a small little secret build with a small lab just to kind of top it off, just a little added extra. And it was going to look modern. I was going to have like dark windows but really bright looking like walls, and I really wanted to go proper penthouse style, even though it's not a penthouse. I hope you get what I'm trying to say, that I just wanted it to be big and open and glorious and out there remote and randomly in the cliffs. So moved it on to a bigger plot, just more for aesthetic than anything. I wanted the ramp to look better. It wasn't fitting on the smaller plot, even though I wanted it to be a smaller build. And then I just tried to add lots more rocks, because it's all about the rocks, and some plants just to try and make it look a little bit more remote and maybe try and disguise it a little bit in the scenery, which didn't actually go particularly well when, you look past the plot and you're right in the middle of the town. But hey, I did my best. So this idea of modern is something I very much struggle with, and I went straight out there thinking, okay, let's just go with maybe a prefab look instead. And big windows, something that I don't know what I was thinking. I wanted the bottom to look different to the top, like that bottom floor almost looks like a foundation, and then it was built up, hence it's got the bricks and then it goes into the wood, just to try and emphasize that it's got some sort of support on it and it's not just sitting there. But that went, no. Like, I'm glad this build turned into what it was, but at this point, I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, I was trying to get this modern look with all these funky windows, and it wasn't suiting the shape of it or the whole idea or anything. And the original idea was, as I said, for an underground lab in the basement, which does happen on various different ways. So I start trying to think, okay, instead of trying to do modern, we'll kind of try and make it look a little bit clinical and functional. So I start adding the beams in and just trying to make it look a bit more like an office building, unfortunately, than anything else. But it actually worked really well. It wasn't until I added more decoration, however, that it really started to form into a lab area, and then my ideas just completely went out there. This top part, I kind of wanted it to look like it was like an add-on. It wasn't built there originally. Somebody just came in and was like, oh, hey, I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to get myself some metal pieces and just have a little shack up the top. But that's kind of like the style I was going for. I didn't want it to look like it was all perfectly done. I use lots of the Star Wars and Get to Work decorations, as well as specifically on the outside here, as you can see now. Can't remember what they're called because I'm absolutely rubbish, but Get Famous. Okay, I apologise for that. So I just wanted to top this off and finish it with a little sort of water tower look for an area that I actually wanted to become an observatory, and I just kind of wanted it to sit there nicely. And well, yeah, that to me, that was finished. I was just adding my decorations and kind of just trying to make the outside look a little bit more like a science area. And once I finally got everything into place, I wasn't happy. I was not happy at all. And so I just started playing around with things as per usual, and just seeing what I can think of with the debug items just to try and make a difference. And if it wasn't for like the pipes and things on the outside, I don't think I really would have thought about taking it further. Like this, at this point, I was happy with the build. I wasn't necessarily disappointed, not as I was from the start anyway. The whole idea just went kaboom in my face. But I liked it, and yet I still added more. I went to bed and I was like, I really like this build, but I don't feel like it's finished. Oh my gosh, that roofing. That was absolutely terrible roofing. I mean, it all just appeared where it wasn't meant to be, and this whole observation tower just gets completely changed regardless. So this was it. This was finished again for the second time, and then I came back and I was like, what if I put something on the rocks? And I was like, okay, well, what if we turn it into a proper secret lab and just go crazy? So I start making my little bridges, and obviously these are just floating floors at the moment, and they're basically made the same way as bridges, and all of that messing around just to get it right. And then I just added a rocket platform. I was like, why not? Why not? And that is pretty much what I do from here on. I just kept adding things, and then I added a room. I was like, I do want it to be a house, I want it to be a residence, but now we have got to go so sci-fi that I don't know when to stop. And that's my biggest problem. I just kept going. So eventually trying to section off the bottom to turn it into a lab area / bedroom area. I had no idea what was going on at this point. I just kept going. So now we've got a little bridge and rocket ship area. I'm like, oh, well, let's just add another place where we can put sciencey things. And that's great. I mean, yeah, it could be another bedroom as well. We could have more than one scientist living here. Like, there was just no limits to what I was thinking, because I don't even know what I was thinking. And just carrying on, start building, etc., and start decorating again for what felt like the 150th time, which probably quite accurate, to be fair. So I absolutely fell in love with this first room that I done. I'm glad I done it this way. It's very kind of military style, the bedroom. But I wanted to emphasise the fact that this was a place for work, not necessarily for relaxation and chilling and socialisation. These people literally came here like a getaway camp to work. These people. Sims, darling. Sims. So, bedrooms and things, they weren't overemphasised. I kind of tried to go with a theme, so the beds are all the same. It was all very militaristic and boring to a certain degree, but it all just comes together with this awesome aesthetic that this could be like a super secret government lab that you can never leave ever again. You are stuck here forever. And my computer just died. So I carry on with this very clinical theme throughout the whole of the interior as much as possible. I go down to the next floor and that just becomes your standard living space, and that was all it was going to be originally, this one bedroom with the living space, and then there was like the entrance hall as well, and I didn't have a clue what to do with that, but then that becomes absolutely epic too, and we end up with a social area as well. The stairs got a little bit crazy on this, but it helped me kind of define the areas for the kitchen and the dining area. It made quite a big difference into the layout of what I was originally going to do, because it was the only place I could put the stairs. It is what it is. And as you can see, we got that beautiful bathtub with lots of cacti in it. I used decorations that I wouldn't normally use just to try and get sort of like a different creative look to this whole build, like the more modern, interesting sculptures that I wouldn't normally even consider using, not even in a luxurious penthouse, etc. I just wouldn't. The eco living is also involved in this a lot. I used it as sort of like a grungy aspect that this wasn't important. It's not important where you sit. It's not important where you eat and drink. What we really need is the high tech to get your work done. So this is the entrance area, kind of turned it into a little more of a social area. And I added the bar, the most awesome bar that I've never been able to really use before. Not as well as this, not as a theme with this. And that wall with the spots, I have never used it before. I'm afraid I don't know what it's going to be called. I'm not one of these people that can be like, oh yeah, this is from that pack and it's called this and you can find it here. I'm rubbish. I just put things in and hope for the best, which I feel like this area came out pretty well. And as I've said, I have never, ever, ever, ever even considered using this wallpaper before. It's like ugly retro stuff that I just don't get along with. So I found myself using objects that I wouldn't normally use. I wouldn't be able to place, like all of the pipes. And yeah, so obviously we don't have a bathroom, so you've got to go up all those floors to come all the way down to the basement to the bathroom. I do apologise, Sims, but I kind of forgot and didn't really allocate a space. But I had this whole idea of an underground lab, so that's what it's done. It's just got a bathroom in it too. And of course, I finally get to my lab section, which is teeny tiny, which was not the plan. And I kind of tried to make it into like a little biology area so we can add one of those mother plant things, because yes, I don't remember what it's called anymore. I apologise, I am rubbish. And then I added some animals from the debug menu just to kind of try and emphasise that they may be dissected in a few minutes time. And I finally remembered the one thing that I didn't was to put that little elements table thing up into the bedroom. And lastly, I decided to make this sort of like a mission control room, but I added another bed because hey, that means it turns into a bedroom, and this astronaut person maybe never ever leaves. So stuck with the same basic idea, the same basic bed, and voila, it was done. I kind of thought, yeah, we've got this other place to do, we're going to just add a bedroom, and what more could this place need? And I started thinking about all the activities I put in there and what was missing. And it kind of cuts out in a little bit because I went into live mode to find these objects because I couldn't remember what they were called. So all of a sudden a whole group of objects are just going to appear, and I'm not talking about the planters, I am talking about the scientific stuff. Ta-da! So obviously the last thing this super government awesome lab place that this has turned into clearly needs a bunker. Never made one before in my life. I've attempted it and it's gone absolutely crazy. So go ahead with my terrain skills of awesomeness again and have to completely reshape everything and hope for the best. And to be honest, I pull it down because I didn't want it to be at the same level as everything else, and I really wanted it to look like a bunker. And this whole little ramp down just went absolutely crazy, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. But I mean, I kind of thought, well, if I add a few more holes, it would just look like a natural crater, maybe. So yeah, we add a few more holes and hope for the best. At which point I end up moving a rock and getting it all crazy, and then having to redesign this rock face because I didn't really even remember how I'd done it in the first place. Which, thinking about it now, I could have gone back to my recording and had a look and been like, oh yeah, it's like this, and the rock looks like that, so it must be this one. But I mean, it's a rock, it's not the end of the world, and if anything, it looks even more beautiful now. So carry on with the craziness with the bunker, and it is literally just a giant lab that I ended up making in there with all of the bits you see on the floor and just added decoration, etc. All the normal, usual things that I clearly wanted to say together. Lots of empty space. I thought maybe for anybody that likes collecting. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's my amazing editing skills, as per usual. Point out my mistakes, and you know what? It's better than it would have been if I just left it alone. Maybe. Maybe not. Anyway, gone back into live mode. Just to test. Oh my gosh. Always, always, always test. And the worst part about testing is trying to make sure you can get everywhere. So I have to readjust these several things, and eventually, obviously, it's awesome again. Eventually. And there's access to my little bunker of awesomeness. Continued, obviously, a little back with some more decorations, making it look like my bridge to the spaceship, rocket ship, whichever, was actually supported rather than just hanging there like, oh, there's no gravity. I do apologise for the funny force. I'm a bit of a weird mood this afternoon, evening, day, whatever it is. Go again with all the decorations, making last minute adjustments, hoping, really wanted to use that fence. This is all in the debug menu, and I was just hoping for the best, and I really wanted to make this little area in the crater that you can kind of see now. What am I looking? I wanted a crash spaceship, but I couldn't find it. I thought there was one with the live debug stuff, but apparently there isn't, and I searched for absolutely ages. I even came up with my own little story for this place, so I'm actually getting excited to go into live mode and actually play this area. Kind of, it's not very sciencey, it's actually got the spy gear stuff to listen in on people, but I thought, you know what, this actually kind of goes really well with the whole government lab thing. So yeah, I kind of got really distracted there because I didn't know what was going on, as per usual. Anyway, my lovelies, the video is almost over. Thank you for sticking with me if you did. If you didn't, well, no worries, but thank you anyway for at least clicking on the video. It's always appreciated. Stay nice to each other, be kind, be epic, and just be amazing as usual.